And welcome back to Skillz Pay Bills, where we are interviewing Vin for the second part, and he talks about his work experiences, such as working and living for 6 days in the wild of Kazakhstan, among the mountains and the wolves.
So, at your production company, what kind of projects were you working on?
Okay, so when I first joined the production company, I started off as an assistant editor. And so initially what I was doing was the prep work. So I was organizing rushes, I was syncing content, I was just prepping the stuff for the main editors to edit. And occasionally, I would get to edit shorter videos here and there. When I started, most of my stuff was, I would say, not super interesting. It was a lot of waiting for stuff to sync, a lot of backing up, and a lot of doing the dirty work and tying up loose ends. And then I think it was about 6 to 8 months after I joined, there was my company got quite a big show from Discovery Channel greenlit, and it involved traveling to remote places around Asia for shoots. It was a survival show, and the show was going to be filmed in UHD. It was going to be the first of its kind.
What's UHD?
And they, in ultra high definition, so it's like in 4K.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So they needed someone to travel with the crew that was familiar with the post-production process and the workflow to work a system where we could ingest our footage daily. That means we would have to copy the footage out from the cards and the audio recorders and stuff like that, and back the footage up into our drives, and then refresh the cards and send them out. And also because it was going to be shot in 4K and it was kind of cutting edge technology, we were very wary of possibly having a lot of technical issues with the footage. So we needed someone to do a QC on the ground itself, in the middle of a remote area. So you'll be talking about places where there's no electricity and there's no Wi-Fi. So we had to come up with a workflow where we could incorporate our entire edit station in the middle of a jungle or in the middle of a desert.
So you had to film a 4K Ultra HD production without access to stable power.
Yeah.
When you need it. So like,
yeah.
I don't know, like for any average guy, like even filming something, like we constantly think of like having batteries with us, having like a good camera. Even if you have a good camera, we take ultra care of it, and we'll never think of bringing it to somewhere like outdoorsy or even like somewhere with no power or the jungle. So I guess that, like, do you feel a lot of responsibility and like stress? Because I think I'll feel like ultra like stress knowing that I'm at some place filming a big show in like 4K, like top of the line technology, and not having proper electricity access.
Okay, so I volunteered for this project, and I emailed my boss and said that I would like to do it because they weren't looking for people in my department. Actually, they were looking for people outside. And I said, like, I heard about this shoot. I know it requires 6 months of traveling, and I wanted to do it. I want to try, and I think it'll be a good experience for me because I knew that the crew going on this shoot were an international crew, very experienced, and being amongst them would definitely help me in terms of learning from them and talking to them. And of course, if you're out in a remote area with them for 2 weeks at a time for 6 months, after 6 months, you're going to be good friends with them, and you're going to definitely learn hear a lot of their interesting experiences that they've had, and hopefully pick up some skills and become a better editor or producer after that. So I emailed my boss, and he sent it to my owner of the company, and then they agreed, and they said, okay, sure. And then I was immediately thrown into it, and then we had to figure out how we gonna. I think the first week was when I realized I was like, oh, what did I get myself into? Because there was so many things that I didn't really think about first, which was like what you said. Cameras are not made. Most cameras that can shoot 4K at the bit rate that Discovery Channel requires for it to pass the quality test because if you want it to be a broadcast standard, it has to be a certain level. Only really big cameras like can handle that, and those cameras aren't made to be out in the desert, in the
wild.
snow, in the rain. So that was the number one thing we had to figure out. How do we windproof, waterproof these cameras to make sure that we are still able to shoot without the cameras going down?
Also, like, were you like trained for this at all? Like, do you have like training for this project or any experience beforehand?
No, I don't think I wasn't trained in doing this. The experience that I had was I was doing pretty well in terms of handling the post-production processes in the office itself. So I thought like I kind of had a very good grasp of how the whole system works. So I was then tasked to take this whole system and try to make it mobile, and then go and look online for possible. So things I'd look online for, like generators, uninterrupted power supply, any sort of waterproofing for cameras, and suggest these ideas to the producer, and hopefully we come up with a workflow that would be successful and not cause too many equipment, too many cameras to go down when we were out there.
Just
How much
curious,
did
how
these
much
cameras
is a camera?
Yeah.
Something around like 10,000
Oh my god.
for like the big cameras, like the Sony FS7. I think it was around there. But the smaller cameras that were used more often, they were about 4,000. There were so many, like I'm talking about tens of thousands of dollars of damaged cameras every 2 episodes or something like that.
Shit.
And the number of smashed cameras, the number of smashed drones, it was something else, man.
Wait, smash from what?
From okay, the smash cameras is when they would like fall down, and they would just drop the camera and it would just like roll down a mountain. And then the drones will crash into the water, crash into a waterfall, hit a branch, and
Hit a branch.
yeah, the GoPros are the best. They are the sturdiest of cameras, and still somehow they managed to make a waterproof GoPro not so waterproof.
What's the budget
But,
for these kind of things?
That was a big budget show.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure the exact detail, but it was a very, very big budget show. That being said, it was a big budget show, but we still had to operate within a certain amount of money, and we were tasked to not try our very, very best to not wreck equipment for
Minimize
each
loss.
shoot. I have an interesting story about this, about going out on shoot. So basically, for this shoot, we went to Borneo, northern Thailand, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, the Himalayas, and Palau. It was quite a diverse range of territories around Asia. And the most interesting one was shooting in Kazakhstan. So we were at a national park somewhere in the northeast of Almaty. And the terrain there was like surreal. It felt like we were on Mars or something like that. It was red rocks, and it was something that like I've never seen before. And all of us were staying in tents. It was like literally in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing around us. So the first night when we arrived, we realized that the winds were really strong. Like the strongest it has been. This was episode 5, I think, and in the past 4 episodes, nothing compared to this. Like winds were really, really strong. And for my station, I had to set up a station where, I have a Mac Pro, like the Mac Pro that looks like a dustbin. I had to set that up with my monitor and enclosure with drives in it. All these things, right, are very moisture sensitive and wind and dust sensitive. So you have to keep these things very safe from all these things. So the tents that were already set up there were too open, and it was too windy for us to set up. So we were just like, okay, we can't set up until we have to get a new tent. So I spoke to the fixer. So a fixer is this guy who makes things happen. So each country we go to, there's a fixer, and he has contacts to purchase the items, etc. So he showed us some pictures of some supposed army-grade tents that were windproof and sandproof or whatever it was. And then
Sounds
we were
like
okay.
arms dealer.
It was something. He was
Kazakh
like, "Come here,
arms dealer."
I show you these pictures on my phone." Then he showed us these pictures, and we were like, "Okay." It was super expensive also, but we didn't have a choice, because if not, if I can't set up, then the shoot can't go on because we need a station. So we ordered this tent, and then the next day, the tent arrives, and there was a group of maybe 5 or 6 locals that took the tent out of the truck and then started setting it up. And then when he started setting it up, I looked at it and I was like, telling my colleague, like, what is that? It didn't look anything like what it was in the picture. It was basically made out of the same material that like a potato sack is made of. It looked like something like that.
Like
it
a
didn't look
sandbag, like those like
Gunny sack.
sand
Yeah,
can
yeah.
like come out from a sandbag.
Yeah, and the picture that we saw was like this, like a green, like your like in army, like your basha tent kind of thing, that kind of material.
What do they call it? Yeah, never mind.
Can't remember. Tarp.
Yeah, like a tub. Yeah.
Yes. So it looked nothing like that, and literally what they had was one metal pole that they stuck onto the ground, and then they threw this cloth over the metal pole, and then they attached pegs to the end of each end of the cloth. It looked nothing like the tent that was in the picture, and we paid I don't know how many $100 for this tent. And I went to the fixer. I was like, there's no way that this tent is gonna withstand any of the wind that is gonna hit us. There's nothing like what you showed us in the picture. And then his response was, well, this is Kazakhstan. Nothing is ever really like the picture. So it's just like, okay. So we just had to make do with that. So the next day, after I set up, I think it must have been like an hour after I finished setting up, we were hit with the strongest windstorm that was like worse than the past 3 days that we were there. So bad, like the tent lasted 5 minutes and it was blown away while my equipment and everything was inside. So I had to like struggle to like open a belly case and like throw all my equipment in while this tent was being blown away. I saw the video of that and it was really funny because it was 3 of us in the tent and we all just thought we were gonna die. And at the same time, we were just trying to pack everything together. It was so bad we couldn't even walk towards the direction the wind was coming at us, and it was just like sand and dust and everything everywhere.
Wow.
Is it possible
Everything
to share the video while you're talking about it?
I don't know where it is. I need to find it. It must be on my old phone.
Okay.
But it was such a surreal experience. Packed everything, and we were like, what do we do now? My entire tent has been collapsed. I don't have an office, and the shoot starts tomorrow. We need to find another place, right? So then our fixer says, actually, right, there's this shed that's about a 7-minute drive down from where our campsite was, and it's an abandoned shed. It's a brick structure, but it's like a tiny house with nothing inside, like a small with one table and one chair inside. The door that doesn't even close properly. We are like, okay, no choice. We take one generator. You take your equipment, and you just go there. You take a radio with you, and you take a solar panel, and you go there. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough manpower to have more than one person there. So you go there and you stay there for the next 5 to 6 days.
Oh my god.
And
So it's just one abandoned like brick small house or
yes,
shed
in the
that's-
middle, and it was really in the middle of nowhere. Like it's just one house in this vast emptiness of red rocks.
Was there a toilet?
No, there's nothing. There's no running water. There's
Okay,
nothing.
okay,
It
wait,
was
wait,
just-
wait. Let's just like bring it back first. So we're in Kazakhstan. So you're in like basically on Mars on Earth. It was super windy and sandy. You couldn't even work properly. You got scammed by like a tent seller, and at the end someone found you guys a brick shed in the middle of the desert with a table, a chair, and no toilet.
Yeah, that's an accurate.
So were you the subject of
summary.
the Survivor show?
That's what I felt like. That's weird because I set up I went there in the night, so it was pitch black, and I had to set up my whole station wearing a head torch, and then set up the generator also.
This whole time they were
And-
filming you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Extreme
yeah. Jokes on
editing.
you are the survivor. It's like, yeah. I really have not been as isolated like that in anywhere, like, even now with the circuit breaker or whatever. It's nothing compared to that kind of isolation that I had there for 6 days. So the only time that I would have people have interaction would be like once a day when they would come and deliver my food. They deliver like 2 meals at a time, and like they gave me a flask for hot water because it got quite cold at night. And apart from that, right, and they were like, yeah, just watch out for wolves, so just make sure the door is shut properly
Wolves.
at night. Yeah, there were wolves in the area. I was like, okay, point noted.
I bet
It
there are
was
hidden
so
cameras
weird.
everywhere.
I had to result in, because you have no connectivity, and then I didn't have a book, I didn't have anything with me, I just had my station. So if I wasn't looking at the rushes of the show, I just resulted to filming myself. I just like started recording myself, and I started talking to the camera and saying like, okay, this is day 1, this is day 2, this is day 3.
Do you still have these tapes?
Yeah, I do have it somewhere. It was such a weird experience, man. It was. And then on the 3rd day I had food poisoning, which was just the icing on the cake. I ate some lamb that was off, and then I had food poisoning, and I had like really bad like diarrhea, and I didn't have any toilet. There wasn't toilet there, right? So I was just like, it was not a.
Let's
Not a
just
good
say,
sight.
right, if you actually died, right, and then it found footage, we found your tapes of you recording yourself descending into insanity, right? And then
Yeah, man.
it'll be the best horror show on earth, I swear. Because it's actually real.
I was thinking about that. I was like, if I die, right, this is the last things that they will see. So I better come across like properly, you know. I better be articulate in my ideas right now and share. I was just saying stuff like this would be amazing if we had more than one person here. If I had to, if I could
Yeah,
chill with
yeah.
someone here, it would be nice. That was what I was saying in the videos, I think, because it was such a beautiful place. It was amazing scenery, and every other day there'll be a sandstorm. Then I have to like lock myself in the shed, and then the whole like all I see was orange outside for like a few hours, and then after it will disappear, and then it'll be like a super nice clear sky, and it was one of the best
How big was the shed?
sceneries.
Like one room?
It was. Yeah, it was probably the size of your room that you're in now. I mean, it was like a tiny shed. There was a small table and chair at the front, and like a wooden platform at the back, so you can sleep on the wooden platform. But that was it. Like there wasn't anything else.
Fucking wolves, man. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So do you see any wolves?
No, but we heard them howling.
Some Asian meat, Singaporean
Did they give you any knives or any like gun?
defense? Any form of defense?
Nah, I think I had a Swiss Army knife, but I had a radio, and that was my only.
It takes 7 minutes,
tool.
okay? You have to fight a wolf for
Yeah.
7 minutes before they come.
That was
Shit.
yeah, man. That was such an interesting experience, and of course, coming out of it, right, I was so happy to be in the company of people. Right, I was just like embracing everyone. I was like, guys, you wouldn't understand, man. Like it was so weird. It was just I just had no human interaction for 6 days.
Did you try
Yeah.
exploring the area outside the shed?
I every day I ventured out a bit further. Like I would just like walk slightly further, and because I'm not supposed to be too far away from the radio, the main radio, in case they comms me. So I have to. So like around 5-6 p.m. I would like venture out and then just try to look around a bit. Then I'll walk back. If not, the only time I go out is to change the generator if I need to pee or whatever. Change the generator oil, like top up my generator. When I was experiencing that, I was like, I never in my life thought that this was going to be what I was doing. I wasn't actually filming anything. I was just wrangling footage for a shoot in the middle of nowhere.
What do you mean by wrangling?
Ingesting the footage, like basically copying the footage from the memory cards onto the hard drives, and then like watching the footage back, logging the footage, prepping the footage for the editors to edit. That
So
was my
when-
role at first.
So when you were doing that, did you were you afraid of deleting stuff accidentally?
Yeah, that was the thing. They were saying that my job was my insurance coverage was the highest out of everyone, because I had the rushes with me, and the rushes means the whole show. The rushes equal the whole show. So the drives were like $500 each, but the drives with footage in it were easily like tens of thousands of dollars, because that's where all the money is going into. The whole point of the whole show is in
the
those
end
drives,
product.
right? Yeah.
The,
So I thankfully survived the 6 episodes without losing any rushes, because I it's just a very meticulous job. So I do think like if someone is starting editing, right, it's important to go through that process also, because the process of organizing your footage, right, as an editor is super important. And when the company that I worked at, the editors, I looked up to like 2 senior editors, and they were super good at organizing their stuff. And it's really important if you eventually want to go freelance one day, because you will have to take charge of organizing your footage and backing up your stuff and things like that. So there's all these other admin stuff you would say that comes with edit. It's not just about editing, it's also about how you prepare your footage and then how you back up your footage, because all of that is equally as important, because if one thing goes wrong and you lose your stuff, then you don't have an end product.
Speaking of that, right, have you made any like big fuck ups?
Yes, but not to a point where it reached my boss. I think it was sorted out within a lower level, because I didn't lose any footage. That's the most important thing. I think the worst thing you can do is lose footage, because then that's losing money for the company already. So the process that we had, and I really respect this process, and I think that I can apply this process into any productions that I go to from now on, because I feel that that's quite an airtight process. The way that they back up the footage in the company that I worked at, it was very meticulous, and they make sure that not only one person is doing it, they have multiple people doing it at the same time, so that it's spread out. So the room for error is just reduced drastically. So I did have certain times where I accidentally deleted something, but there were 2 backups all the time. So it just involved taking more time to go and find the backup and pull the backup out.
You seem to have mainly worked on like documentaries and also reality TV shows. Are there any biggest misconceptions that audiences have of these kind of shows?
I think, you watch reality TV shows, especially with reality TV shows, you have to understand that it's manufactured. As with most things that are on TV, it is manufactured, right?
Yeah.
We are in the boredom killing business. We are there to entertain people, and that's what your goal is, right? Is to be entertained. Now, I have differing points of views here, because I feel like, yes, TV shows are there to entertain, but if you're passing off a TV show as factual, then you do have, personally, I feel like you need to have some sort of integrity and, respect your audience a bit, and not blatantly lie to your audience and stuff like that. So that's how
words.
I would that's how I like to work. I mean, I like to be honest lah. I don't think like, it depends on what kind of shows you're doing. If you're doing a drama or whatever, yeah, sure. If you're doing a reality show, I also think you can be a bit more tongue-in-cheek or whatever it is. You can, because it's a bit like wrestling. People know that it's an exaggeration also. Like, so if you watch like Keeping Up with the Kardashians and stuff like that, you know that it is obviously done to exaggerate certain situations and make things more dramatic than it is. So if you look at Singapore Social and that kind of style of show, it's done to create drama. Even though there's no drama, right? You're trying to create some sort of drama by choosing, again with the editing, you choose the shots that you use, you put certain words together or certain lines together that they didn't necessarily say in that way, and then you form something that is a bit different. So you have all these techniques that you use to create what they call conflict, or to create some sort of jeopardy. That's the term that they use. You need to have jeopardy just before a commercial break, or you have to have jeopardy here, so that there's a cliffhanger, so that people come back after the commercial break to watch. These things are part of it's something that I learned more when I was there, obviously, and I realized how manufactured a lot of the shows are. I just think people should watch reality knowing that it is an exaggeration. So it's not really it's not really reality. It's an exaggerated reality.
Any plans to move on from documentaries, from reality TV? Any big movie plans?
I think when I was younger, when I was in poly, I wanted to do a movie, and I've always wanted to write a movie. And I was like writing short films with my friends. But now I don't think that I actually would want to make a movie. I might be more inclined to make a documentary. But that being said, that the amount of effort and time and sacrifice that you need to put into making a documentary that chances are would very rarely be successful here also. It's not it's not something that is in the immediate future for me. I don't think it's in the plans for the immediate future. And at the moment, like I'm trying to, as this segment is called, pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
With editing. Editing is a good skill definitely a good skill to have to pay the bills. It's about finding the clients and finding the projects. Because now I'm a freelancer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just moving from one project to the next project and seeing how that goes. If I have the time and the money, I would try to make a documentary if there's something that I feel passionate about enough to do, because at the moment I don't really have something like that yet.
Do you think the Singapore industry is not environmentally cohabitable for documentarians like you?
In order to get to the level where you want to make your own things and your own kind of content, you need to be making enough money from other means to have enough that disposable income where you don't have to see a return on the money, and there's that you're okay with losing that money if you just put this amount of money into making a film, because there's a high chance you're not going to get anything back from it. But what you do get back from it is your own personal satisfaction and the passion that you have of telling a story. I think that is like the hardest part of working in the industry, because all of us have our own, like, want to have our own expression, but when it comes down to it, you're always working for someone, you're working with someone. It's always a collaboration, it's always a team effort. It's never just what you want to do, and it's very rarely what you want to do, and the thing is, it's very rarely ever satisfying in terms of everyone thinking that what you made was good. There's always going to be room for improvement, and it's just that you manage to hit a deadline and you have to work towards a deadline. You can't satisfy everyone, and there will always be creative differences, and that's just the nature of the industry, and you have to be ready to deal with that, I guess. Yeah.
How have you navigated like creative differences between yourself and someone else in the production process?
I think I'm also a bit stubborn when it comes to it. When I'm very sure of a certain way of doing something, but then again, it also depends on who's the one telling me about. Because I've worked the best with executive producers and producers who've previously have had editorial backgrounds. So they come from they were editors before. And because they were editors before, they understood what worked in the edit, and they went out and shot stuff for the edit. So that's very important. And when they communicate to the editor, it comes across really clear. So they really have a good idea of what they want, even though it may not be the same style that I have in my mind. But they communicated it to me clearly, and they are way more experienced than I am. So I take it that I trust that this is the right way to go, and that was just solely because of their experience. Even though I may not think that style might work or whatever it is, I need to understand that they've been doing this for 20, 30 years, and they know what they're talking about.
You mentioned shooting for the edit. Like, what does that entail? What does that mean?
So when you have a scene, for example, as an editor, you kind of have an idea of what kind of shots you want to use for this scene, and you try to find those shots in the rushes, right? Or you look at the rushes, and you have these shots, and you have a wide, you have a close up, you have a mid shot, and then you piece that together in your head first, and then after that you piece it together on a timeline. So as a producer who understands how the edit works, who can play the scene out in his or her head, those producers are naturally the better ones, because they will direct the camera people on shoot to get shots that work in the edit. They also don't waste time in shooting stuff that never gets used in the edit, because that's something that a lot of productions do, is they overshoot. They just keep shooting, and it's like, we have more stuff. The more stuff, the better. But the more stuff means the more hours spent through looking. The editors have to spend through looking through the stuff to find stuff. Versus if you're an experienced producer who knows what works in the edit, you go there and you shoot what works in the edit, and then it saves time for the editors also, because It's whatever is there, and it's all shot with the intention to play out as a scene in the edit.
Any advice for aspiring editors?
I think listen more and be patient with having your own creative input also. That's something that I wish I did better also. I feel like I need to listen to people more and listen to people who have more experienced and understand what they're saying before dismissing them. If you're not sure, just ask. And there's so many people in the industry now, and there's so many different styles of editing, so there's no right or wrong, and there's so many different styles, so you can't say that this style is better than that style. It depends on what you want to make. Especially for another thing, right? I think if you go and watch YouTube right now and you see the content being made on YouTube, like for like one person content creators like Sneaky Sushi, right? If you watch his content is like really, really heavy on the editing, and it's very well edited to a point where like people think it's easy to do. So because it's like, oh yeah, YouTubers do it, so it's simple. It seems simple. It seems like straightforward enough if this guy can do it. But his background is he wanted to be an editor. He went to study film, so he knows. So it makes sense because then you see how well he edits his stuff and how much effort he puts into his edits, and you go like, yeah, okay, that's why like it all is a lot of effort, it's a lot of hard work. And if you want to be a new editor, just keep watching content, keep exposing yourself to different types of content, and then pay attention to like how things are edited. Pay attention to the music, pay attention to sound effects, pay attention to how fast the cuts are, what kind of shots they're using, the choice of shots.
Right.
These things, yeah.
Because just now you mentioned about being a freelancer. Would you have any advice on people getting into, like editors getting into freelance work, and how can they put themselves out there to be found, or how do they like try and get clients or projects or work? If you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, I think I'm quite new to this, to being a freelancer, so I'm not fully.
Or maybe what you've tried.
What I've tried was just talking. Okay, that's the most important thing, is to use your contacts, right? To use your friends. And naturally, if you study media, if it's in uni or poly, right, then you will have contacts and people that are in the industry also. So it's about putting yourself out there and just asking people if they have anything going on, catching up with them, and constantly being in touch with people so they know that you are around, and jobs will come. Because if a group of people are starting their own company, there's going to be times where they'll be overwhelmed and they will need more people to come on and help, need more people to edit or produce. So just keep your options open with your contacts, and after you finish a project with a person, try not to burn a bridge. Just, if it's good or bad, just keep in contact with the person, and you never know if that person passes your name on to someone else,
And that's the end of our interview with Vin for Skillz Pay Bills. Tune in for more interviews with other industry professionals. Remember that we are Puckish Podcast. That is Puckish, and you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Instagram, and Stitcher.
All right. And YouTube.
And YouTube.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.